I am joined by Dan Wacksman, board chair at HSMAI, also principal at Sassato. Is that how you say it?
That's how you say it.
All right. Specializing in marketing, distribution, and technology. How are you?
I am good. I am great today. How are you doing?
Good. Coming to us from New York, still in quarantine, I think, from travels.
That's right. That's right. I had coming from a state that has the high quarantine levels. We're unfortunately required to quarantine here in New York.
Yep. Well, speaking of quarantine and pandemics and all that kind of stuff, why don't you kick us off by telling us, like, where do hoteliers go now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what everybody's looking at now, right? I mean, the bottom line is everything's changed, right? It's any of the old metrics, any of the old ways of doing things, they're for the most part not relevant anymore. And not only has everything changed in terms of our customer, everything's changed in the terms of our teams, right? So we have reduced staff, we have low budgets or potentially no budgets to do the things that we used to do. So we have to think about how do we do things in this new reality. I mean, if you think about it, just like from what's changed, right? Our market mix has changed. Our feeder markets have changed. Our booking windows have changed. Our peak and need periods have changed. Our comp sets might have even changed, right? Because they may not be open anymore. They may be doing something else. And of course, the most important, the customer expectations have changed. And we really need to think about how do we address that with our limited budgets, with our reduced workforce, and in this new reality.
So a lot of hotels want to drop rates to get those bookings. There's only so many travels out there, right? And but that's not the answer. And we all know that's not the answer. But what is the priority right now for a hotelier?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I know when the pandemic first started, I put up a controversial post that everybody needs to drop their rates. I just wanted to get a rise out of everybody. And my point at that time was, this is a crisis. We need to help, and this is time to build your brand and let people know that you're there for the first responders and people who are in emergency situations. But we're way past that now. I hope. and and it's not about rate, right? And you'll hear all the smart revenue managers are out there saying it's not about rate. It's not about rate. It's an occupancy issue, and lowering your rate's not going to increase demand. And I think for the most part, they're correct, right? Rate has very little to do with it. In fact, this might be the one time that rate is probably the least important thing. I mean, to me, there are three elements that people need to be addressing. Number one is safety, and to ensure that people feel comfortable in the environment that they're going to. The other is flexibility. It's funny. I'm actually looking. I'm staying at like an Airbnb type thing now, but once I'm out of quarantine, I'm gonna go to a hotel, and they still have these pre-book rates, right? So if you book a non-refundable, non-changeable rate, I can get a lower rate, but in this environment now, that doesn't make sense anymore, because you don't know what's going to happen at a given moment. So we need to be more flexible. And again, you have to take off that old hat or smash that old paradigm and think about things differently. So flexibility is extremely important. And the third one that I think about is what I call empathy, and maybe it's for lack of a better word. And by empathy, I mean showing that you understand the concerns of the guests and addressing them. And this is in word and in deed. So one is our marketing messages. Our marketing messages really need to be on target, and talking about the flexibility and talking about the safety and talking about the things that you're doing to understand their needs and their concerns. But on the other half of that, which is extremely important, is the delivery, right? Because they can't get to the hotel, and everything you said from a marketing perspective is not the reality when they get on site. So, we've been talking about smashing silos forever now in revenue management, marketing, operations. I mean, this is the accelerant, right? This is the accelerant that's going to force us to do it. And the ones that do it are going to be the winners, and the ones that don't aren't, because now your rates cannot be divorced from your marketing message. And none of that could be divorced from what they're going to experience when they get on property. So these things need to be tightly aligned.
So, what about the future as we kind of crawl out of the travel's starting to rebound in certain areas? What could hoteliers be doing right now to prepare for, this thing will be over one day?
Yeah. I think that's a question that everybody should be asking themselves: is how do we position ourselves for recovery? The problem is it's really, really hard, and most things are, but the problem is now, right? All of the things that you want to do potentially require some level of budget or some level of staff. Right? It's what is it? Fortune favors the bold, right? So the people who are going to go out and actually be bold and do things, I think, are going to be successful. So for example, all those things that you wanted to do, like a new booking engine, a new CRS, or a new marketing approach, a new brand, or whatever it is, that stuff is still going to be there when the market starts ticking up again. So if you're ready and you're ready to take advantage of it, I think that's a great opportunity. Not only do another thing, I was talking to a client of mine and saying, hey, your booking engine is actually end of life. It's not supported anymore. Now's the time to do it. I said, well, I don't have the money. I'm trying to conserve cash. But the reality is, when he comes back to the business, he's going to be with an end of life booking engine. And the hardest thing to do with technology is to change it when you're at 80% occupancy, right?
Right.
Nobody's there now. So you get to change the wheels on the bus with it going pretty slowly now. So it's a lot easier, which is one huge advantage of doing those kind of things now. Another huge advantage of doing those kind of things now is a lot of the vendors are hungry for your business. So it's a good time to negotiate probably a preferential deal now. But the reality of it is, a lot of people don't have that level of flexibility and to spend money or the resources. So I think another thing that they could potentially look at is using the time that they have now, or if they have time now, to take a look at the technology and the processes that they have in place. And it may not cost money, but maybe now it's time to upskill on the technology, to learn more about it. Or to develop new plans and processes that are going to improve it. I mean, one thing that I see a lot of in the MarTech and the distribution tech space is people will often come to me and say, this CRS sucks, or this booking engine sucks. But a lot of times the reality is they just don't know how to use it.
Right.
So even if you can't swap out your technology now, maybe you become an expert on it now. This is the time to do that.
Yeah, it's a great point. We're actually creating how-to videos right now. We have been for a couple of weeks, because these are complex systems, and there's a lot of you've lost some of your talent, you've lost some of your skill set. That guy that used to run the system, he's gone. The person that touched it once a week is now owning it, and they need help. So you're right. It's a really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking, just mentioned about like busting the silos. I mean, we're being forced, right? So maybe you had 6 people at your property, and now you have 2 responsible for sales, marketing, distribution, revenue management. So you now have to become an expert in those areas, and there are resources out there, like you mentioned. You guys are creating some great stuff, and I think other vendors would be really pleased if you went to them and said, okay, we have some time. How do I optimize this? How do I get better at this?
Yep. All right. That's some good advice, Dan. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.